The businessy aspects of the publishing industry can leave a writer feeling kind of blah. And platform expectations, especially for authors of nonfiction, can feel overwhelming and discouraging. When you've got everything all lined up and you're in the middle of pitching and querying, wouldn't it be nice to know that the gatekeepers you're interacting with, the literary agents, the acquisitions editors, wouldn't it be nice if you knew that they cared? Today's guest is a literary agent who genuinely cares, and she believes that you deserve a place to call home. Years ago, she and I worked together on an editorial team, and she was my managing editor. Today, she's a guest on the show. Enjoy hearing what Deidra Riggs has to say about her own writing and publishing journey and about her role as a literary agent. I think you'll appreciate the vision she has for the authors she represents and for writers everywhere, including you. I'm Ann Croker, writing coach. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. If you're a regular, welcome back. Today, you've joined hundreds of established and emerging writers who are discovering ways to reach their writing goals and have fun by being more curious, creative, and productive. You're tuning in to the Ann Croker Writing Coach podcast. This is episode 278. You deserve a place to call home. Literary Matchmaking with Deidra Riggs. I am so excited to host Deidra Riggs. She's a literary agent with Embolden Media Group. Deidra is an author, speaker, coach, and consultant. Her extensive background includes writing, editing, and marketing for faith-based, nonprofit, and for-profit organizations. She's adept at shepherding a group or individual to the successful conclusion of a project, offering clear and accessible tools and guidance. Deidra is drawn to well-told stories with fresh viewpoints, whether fiction or nonfiction. She gravitates toward engaging, thoughtful, and creative first-rate narrative and out-of-the-box perspectives that help us laugh, dream, heal, and grow and go forward. A qualified administrator of the Intercultural Development Inventory, IDI, Deidra lives in Connecticut, and Deidra is here with us now. Deidra, welcome.
Hi, Anne. I'm so excited to be here. I'm really happy to be connecting with you again after a few years.
Same here. And
Yeah.
in fact, I've been part of your roles that you've held in the
Hmm.
writing and editing and publishing journey that
Yeah.
you've been on. And
Mhm.
when did we first meet? It would have been, I don't know,
A long
20.
time ago.
I know, yeah, maybe we shouldn't say. But you were in first we worked together where I was looking at some of your work and editing some of your work, and then
Yeah.
you supervised me as an
Hmm.
editor. So
Hmm.
is that where you would kind of trace some of the early stages of shifting from writer to different roles? Maybe tell us a little bit about that journey, the writing and publishing aspect. Even though, I mean, if we if we're going to get into it, you could talk about how that has woven together with other things you were doing at the time. So you were working,
Hmm.
whether part-time or full-time,
Yeah.
in addition to writing and
Right,
editing. And
right, right. I think that writing probably is the thread through my whole life. In all the different things that I've done. So I always look back at my life and I'm like, wow, what in the world? No one could have ever planned this, And it's not like it's amazing or fantastic or anything. It's just like very eclectic. And I think if you look at my resume and you're trying to hire me, you're like, but what has I don't understand. What's the connection? But when I was little, my mom taught me to read, and that was really important and just a really sweet experience. And it opened up a world to me. And then I realized, oh, I can write words too. And I am always been like this deep, probably, I don't know that I'm an old soul. I really think I'm a younger soul, but like a deep thinker and a deep feeler. And in my growing up, I didn't really have a place to safely put those feelings and thoughts and my questions and, all of that. And so I started writing and I've just like in journals, or I would just write on a piece of paper. And I just realized, oh my gosh, this is a thing. And then when I was in fifth grade, my fifth grade teacher secretly submitted an essay to some contest and I won it. And she told me, I won this contest for writing and I got to go to lunch with the governor. It was a whole thing. And my mom got to go. And so that was like the first validation of um, you can write. I mean, I don't even remember what I wrote, but it was the first validation of writing is a thing, first of all, and that people recognize and care about, and that you can do it. You're good at it. And so it was just always like my thing. And then, fast forward to for me it was 2008 when blogging was becoming this thing. And I can remember the first time I heard about blogging, I was like, what the heck is a blog? That's a terrible word. I hate the word. I don't want to be part of it. And then we moved away to we moved to Nebraska, and I had no friends. There was no culture. I was not connecting with the people. It was just a terrible experience on many levels for me. And then I found this community of blogging. So that was the thing that connected me. And I think it introduced me as a writer to a larger world of people who were had similar ways of expressing themselves and looking at the world. And I don't know if you remember back then, but we had those link up things. And so like people would host those link ups and you'd write your thing and link it up and then go and read theirs. And so through that, I started to see, oh, there's different ways to write, and there are different ways that people express what they're feeling and what they're thinking. And um, then I got connected to the high calling, which was, and I think back then blogging was also a way that literary agents, editors, publishers were looking to find people who could write new voices, fresh takes, and it really opened up lots of opportunities for moms and single people and older people who were just sitting in their homes, usually writing on their in their journal, but now publicly, to get introduced. And so the High Calling was a community of people who wrote about faith and work and that intersection. And the editor they would do that as well. They would have those link up things, and so you could meet people through that. And somehow I got invited to write as a what were we? A contributor.
Family. Oh,
Uh,
contributing writer,
yeah,
contributing
contributing
editor or something?
writer.
Yeah.
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 And so I would write regularly. And I think that's probably my first, no, because I was writing for another group too, Encourage. But it was the first time that I was like writing, someone wanted my writing for their vehicle platform to put out into the world. And so I learned a lot through that. People were editing my writing, they were critiquing my writing, they were making it better, they were making me sad, they were making me, all of those things. But they were making me better. They were making me a better writer. And so I just continued. So, and none of that, no one very few people were be able to make a living at that. Just like right now, very few people are able to make a living as influencers or,
Mhm.
whatever it is. There are very, very few writers actually become New York Times bestsellers. So I had other jobs. I was working at the YMCA. I was an executive director there. No, not ex I was an executive something. I can't remember what it was, but I have to be clear, it wasn't executive director. And then I went to work for an insurance company and I was doing marketing for them. So that was all writing. And at the Y, it was membership. So that was also at that time, like telling the story of the YMCA. And so that was writing again. And then I got invited to be a managing editor at the High Calling. And I was able to do that full time. And that was just, ah, so fun. I think we just had a great group of people and it felt very not hierarchical. It just felt like we were trying to do this good thing for the world with our words and also learning to be better at it. And then, life just kept going and the High Calling actually was sold and they moved to Boston and wanted all their people to be in Boston, and I wasn't going but to Boston. So I went back to insurance. But somewhere in there, somebody contacted me, and I ended up publishing two books. And so then I learned about publishing. I started to
Yeah.
learn about publishing. And not too long ago, I was working with a group of women, all women of color, and we were working on an anthology that's coming out in 2026. And it was really amazing. And one of those women had worked as an literary agent for Embolden Media Group. And we knew that there was an opening at Embolden. And I said, well, why not? I'll ask if this is something that I can do. And so I reached out to Javon, who I had followed and admired for, she's the founder and owner of Embolden Media Group. And I think we must have had mutual attraction or whatever to each other because she was like, "No way, you want to work with this agency?" And I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing yet, but yes, I would love to." And so that was back. It's almost been a year now that I've been working as a literary agent with Embolden and having a blast. So that was a lot of
Wow.
words.
No, that was fabulous. I'm really relieved that you were feeling positive about the years you were a managing editor at the High
Yes,
Calling, since I was under
yes,
your
it was
leadership, and
amazing.
I loved it too. But I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that you did.
Hmm.
And that writing experience, yeah, I had a similar path that it
Hmm.
went from blogging to editing to this. Well,
Hmm.
I didn't end up with becoming a literary agent, and you did. And so
Yeah, but look
you,
what you are doing.
well, I
We
do love
need
what I'm
you.
doing. Well,
Yeah,
I'm part, I feel like I'm part of
you
filling
are.
that time between, like, I want to write a book, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
I need a literary agent and they don't know what
Hmm.
to do in that time period.
Yep.
I try to tee them up and send them your way, fully
Yeah,
prepared.
love it. Love it.
So, yeah, I love this moment too, where you realize there's an opening
Mm.
and you reach out to Javon and you said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do it. So tell me about that. So she said, let's do it, or
Yeah.
something, right? And then she brings you on, and then is there mentoring involved? Like, what does it take to
Mhm.
become a literary agent?
Yeah, I think that the skill or my natural whatever that helps me a lot is I am able to make deep connections with people, and I also am good at following my gut leads me well. And I just know I've learned to trust that. I just know who I'm going to be able to work with, and I know who I'm not going to be able to work with. And I've learned to see that as a gift for all of us because if it's not going to be fun to work with you, you're not going to like me, and it's not going to be fun. And so let's
Yeah.
just cut this off at the beginning. And so I feel like I am building these relationships with these amazingly creative people. I am telling you the things that people are writing and thinking and wanting to put out into the world, I just feel honored that I am getting a first look, that they're even willing to let me look at, to just look at it. It's blows my mind. I
Mm,
just think
mm,
that the future of literature and writing it's just only going to get better. It's just getting better and better and better. And so I'm excited about that. Why am I telling you that part? I don't know, but sharing that part with you. Oh, because of building the relationships, because that's really what it's about, is for me, I want my authors to know that I am there for them, that I've been on that side where I'm an author and working with a publisher. I'm sorry about my dog. So the thing that is really important to me is that I know what's important I know my author and what's important to them because I want their publishing house to feel like home to them. I don't want them to feel like, I mean, there is a business part to it, but I don't want them to feel like they've had to make themselves smaller, change their message, um, change their voice or the essence of who they are just to get a book published. If that's happening,
mm,
I don't want them to be at that publishing house. And I want them to think that
mm.
like right now some of them are like I have this one book that I've been writing for 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to give that to a publishing house that isn't going to honor that, right? I don't want that. I want them to find the place that honors that 15 years of
Wow.
your life that you gave to that. Um,
Mm,
so and so it's building the relationship with the author, but also with the editors. So I know the acquisitions editors, whether or not they're going to be that person for my
mm,
person, because I want them to
mm.
be that person for my person. And I also want my person to be that person for them, right? Because
Yeah.
for me, it's all about relationship. And yeah, let's do a New York Times bestseller book. But if you feel like you had to compromise your soul for that, is that really,
Oh.
I don't want to be part of that. Maybe there are people who don't mind that, but that's not me. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I don't feel I don't need to have an author who has a New York Times bestseller book. That's not my motivation. I want my author to get a New York Times bestseller book if that's what they want and to celebrate that. And I want to celebrate that with them. But mainly, I want them to get more people seeing these beautiful things they're creating. I mean, I can't do what they're doing. They are amazing. I can make it better. I can push them and challenge them. I can ask good questions, all of that. But I did not create the essence of what they're sending out into the world. And that is just an honor. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's what is going on with with me.
I love some of the terms you've used. I
hmm
want them to feel like they're at a home, like this is
hmm
home.
hmm
And that's such a different terminology than what we're used to, which is
hmm
more about this is a business partnership. We have this business document called a book proposal if
Yeah.
it's nonfiction, and so
hmm
much of it feels like the business aspect, and it's almost like you're stripping all that away and say, yes,
hmm
I'll do some business negotiations for you, but only as it serves you in this project
Yeah.
and I'll do the matchmaking that I feel is possible, and hopefully,
Yes.
they'll choose you. But
Right.
does that mean though, if you're being choosy on their behalf based on the conversations you've had with your authors, does that
hmm
mean that some projects are just like parked until you find the right fit, or what's that like, that process of waiting for the right fit for your authors?
hmm It is like that's the roller coaster. It's like trying to find the person who's going to open your email, right? Who's going to
Mm.
open this email first of all? And then who is going to be able to hear what this author is trying to put out into the world? So sometimes I'll send it out on submission and I hear right back, like, I just want you to know I got this. Thank you so much for sending it to me. I probably won't get to it for whatever, but I'm going to get back to you. Sometimes I get, um, I need more information. So I'll send them more information. Sometimes it's that not right away, but they'll come back and say, this isn't a good fit for us. If that happens, I go back and I say, can you just give me some feedback? Can you let me know, what is the thing that held you up
Hmm.
the house? Is it the writing? Is it the pacing? Is it the concept? Is it the writer? What are those things? I don't always get the answer to that. But when people do give me the answer, so grateful for that. And I take it back to the author. This is the feedback that I'm getting. And every time I take the feedback to them, the author's like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. They said no to my book, but I know why.
Yeah.
These are things I'm willing to change. These are things I'm not willing to change. And so I'll have to sit with this for a while and figure out what to do next. It's all relationship. It's all relationship.
Mm.
And just trying to no one has said, this is a terrible book. Why did you send this to me? Right? No one
Well,
has.
you wouldn't send that out, I'm imagining.
Yeah. It's all very good, positive feedback. I think that right now, especially the landscape of publishing is changing and publishers are frightened, to some degree. They're not as willing to take risks that they may have taken back in 2016, 2020. Um, Things are different now. And so there is some hesitation for me, especially as representing all of my authors are women of color right now. Um, Many new voices, mostly new voices. And so that's risky for a publisher right now. And the women that I represent write as women of color. So they're not trying to make anyone like them. They're trying to be who they are and put out a message they feel called and led to put out into the world. And that's a risky thing right now.
What's it like for someone to come to you with their project? Maybe you know them, maybe you don't, but you have to
Mhm.
reject them. Tell me about that process of
Yeah.
rejection, because
Yeah.
we all as author, I say we, just sort of collectively
Yeah.
thinking about
Hmm.
all the writers and authors dreaming of it. They send out
Hmm.
their project and then they
Hmm.
get that rejection. Like, talk about it from your side of the
Yeah.
desk.
Well, normally, like I will know within 5 minutes whether I want to hear more about this person or this book. And so they'll send me something, I'll open it up, and first of all, am I intrigued by what they're writing? And it really is a quick gut check, like yes or no. If I am intrigued, then I will go and research them. Who is this person? Does anybody know them? Because the platform is still a big deal. Um, and then I will, if I feel they don't have to have a big platform. If they're writing a style, they have a good concept. I'm willing to have a conversation. Will you send me something I can read? But if I open it up and I just am not connecting, you don't need to keep hoping you don't need to be sitting at home waiting for me to tell you no. When you could be talking to other people who might say yes. It doesn't mean it's a bad book. It just doesn't, I didn't, I don't get it. I don't like it. It's not holding my attention, but that doesn't mean it's not for someone. And it's
Yeah.
better for me to just say, this is not good for me. It's not a good fit for me. And I wanted to let you know that. And sometimes I'll say, I'm sure you'll find a great place for it. I won't always say that, but sometimes I'll say, I'm sure you'll find a great place. I wish you the best. I have said, if you work on this and feel like you want to send it back to me at some point, I'd be happy to look at it then. Um, and then sometimes I just get weird ones and I don't reply because I feel like they were just like maybe riding on the subway and they had an idea and they typed it out on their phone and sent it to me. And I say, I don't reply to those
They
usually.
didn't understand the process,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what would be a starting point if
Hmm.
somebody's writing let's talk
Hmm.
nonfiction versus, I know I have people listening
Hmm.
in and tuning in who write fiction, but let's talk about nonfiction
Yeah.
because of the platform element.
Yeah.
Where's like, if somebody were going to submit, but they really ought to wait to get some sort of threshold just to start the conversation. We're
Hmm.
recording this early
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
2025. What would be your
Hmm.
current threshold to say, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's enough to start the conversation?
Yeah. I'd start a conversation at 2,500 followers on.
2,500, not
Hmm.
25,000. Oh, nice. And
I
that's
would
followers on one platform
on that one platform
and that one platform can
because
be anything, any of the public facing places.
yes, but if it's a good concept and they're a good writer, because I think there's three things that we're looking for: a good concept, good writing, and a platform.
Hmm.
So the platform is just one of those. And sometimes you might not have a whole lot of followers on Instagram, but people know you, right? Because you just haven't focused on social media. But I am gonna want you then to know we're not submitting this book right away. You're gonna work on growing your platform because that's what the publishers want to see. They
Yeah.
want to see that you have people who are going to buy this book. And I'm not going to send it to them if you have 2,500 public or followers, but I will talk to you. And I will see if you're interested in growing your platform. And if you're
Hmm.
interested in growing your platform, then let's talk about that and what does that mean? And I'm sorry that that's a real thing, but it is a real thing. And since you want to be published,
Yeah.
it's something you're going to have to work on.
And what would be a number that would make you feel like, oh, I could take this out right away once we finalize the
Yeah.
proposal?
250,000.
Okay. I knew it had grown.
Hmm.
A lot of my writers are like, they keep moving the goalposts. Just when I get
Yeah.
close, they're like, boom, and it
That's for
shoots up.
me. That's for me. I mean, if Oprah sends me something, then, whatever. And she somehow has zero followers. Well, something has happened then that she has zero followers. But, if under the right circumstances, like those are not hard and fast. I'm not going to say no just because you have 1,000 followers. I'm going to look at your concept. I'm going to look at your writing. And the platform's not the first thing I look at. The first thing I look at is when I read this first paragraph, do I want to read more? And if I want to read more, then I want to know, well, who's writing this? And that's when I'll go and look. And if it says you have 57 followers, I will write you back. I will write you back and say, this is great. I'm concerned about your platform.
Okay, that's honest. And
Mm-hmm.
it's realistic given the
Mm-hmm.
current state of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you find authors you want to rep?
Um, I know people are on TikTok. I don't understand TikTok. I'm sorry. I like Instagram, and so that's where I am. And if usually people who are serious about getting published or doing, like being influencers or whatever, they'll say, I can see I have this many Instagram followers, but they'll also say, I have this many on TikTok, I have this many on YouTube, go to these channels. So they're aware that that's important.
What about email subscribers? I have heard that that was like
Yeah,
the gold standard is if you had a lot of
yeah.
subscribers.
I think it's social media right now. I think email is important. It really is. Um,
Huh.
but a lot
Okay.
of people don't want emails in their inbox, and so they're not
Mm.
subscribing and they're
Mm-hmm.
going to the content that they want.
Oh,
So,
that's good to hear. I mean, good to
mhm,
understand.
yeah. And then people, like for a hot minute, I said, I'm not accepting any more submissions because I want to do a good job for the ones that I have. And then people were emailing me and saying, my friend said she sent you something and she got a message back that said you're not accepting subscribers. So I will accept people referring stuff to me for sure. And then I took that off and I said, I'm just open. And once I opened it again, I got the most amazing, the most
So you,
amazing.
so the slush pile or whatever you want to call it, it works. And you have a
Yes.
process, you process them
Yep.
some way where you
Hmm.
flag them, star them,
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 It's really interesting. And I just have always loved to build relationships with people. And that doesn't mean like I'm collecting friends because I don't have a whole lot of people in my life. But I do feel like when you encounter a person in a day, that's a relationship. It may be a very like 5 minute long relationship, but it's a relationship. And I think that that approach to the world is helpful in this industry. Um,
Boy, that's good.
yeah, so
I mean, that seems like a value that drives everything you're doing.
mhm.
What do you wish all writers knew about writing and publishing?
Oh, what do I wish they all knew about writing and publishing? I wish that they knew that they deserve a place that feels like home. Like if they're going to do it, they deserve a place that feels like home. And yes, it is a business. So I think we have put for a long time an emphasis on the business part of it. And to me, that's a given. I mean, we live in a capitalist society. Of course, it's a business, right? But the piece that we don't treasure or allow ourselves to wish for is a place that treats us well and that we feel heard and seen and valued there. I think we always feel lucky if that happens. Um, and there is that sense of luck. I feel that publishers could work harder at feeling like home. And I feel like the more writers understand that they deserve to feel like they're at home, that those things could possibly change along the way. And I think I mean, it's out there. You can find people who feel like home.
Hmm. So if a writer is just running up against walls, they're getting rejected, rejected,
Mhm,
rejected,
mhm,
rejected.
mhm.
It, how do you feel about other publishing options available to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the world is changing, and we vote with our money in many ways in America and other places that sell books, and eventually things change. Um, and you might get left behind because they're self-publishing now. Writers don't have to rely on these big gatekeepers to get their books published, and writers who I mean, there is this thing, you have to have the resources to be able to do it, and that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but there are ways. I mean, a woman did a story on TikTok that became a book, right? I mean,
Anything's possible right
anything
now.
is
It's
possible. And for publishers, if they're comfortable in thinking they are the ultimate gatekeeper, I think they're going to get left behind
mm,
because in a minute, they're not going to be the ultimate gatekeeper. There are so many other ways. We saw it in a different way back in the blogging days because so many people got book contracts then from blogging.
hmm
I mean, they got sought out. They weren't putting their manuscript in an envelope and sending it to through the post office. They were just writing on their computer at home, and people were saying, I want to publish a book that you write. So,
Yeah.
of course, things are going to continue to change.
Do you feel like people who are writing nonfiction, if they put some of that material out there, maybe a lot of that material that's going to go into the book
Mhm,
in different formats, maybe one piece that's going to be in chapter three is an
mhm,
idea they're testing on YouTube, and then something else is on Instagram, a
mhm,
little quote that's going to be in there. And how do you feel about that?
mhm,
Some of it showing up in different
mhm,
places before
mhm.
they've published, before they've, or maybe when they are under
Yeah.
submission.
Yeah, I do think so. It's all I'm relational, right? So the author has a relationship with their followers too, and you need to respect that and be fair. And they don't want to, they will because they love you, but they don't want to pay money for something they've already said saw you say for free. So some of that, yes. I mean, like some people have catchphrases that they use all the time, and your reader is going to expect to see that in the book. But if your book is everything or mostly over 50% what's already been published, I would feel disappointed in that as a reader. As a follower of you, I would feel like all you did was take your stuff that I already read and put it in a book and now I'm paying you for it. No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
And so as an author, to respect your reader, respect your follower, and
Mm.
do some work to come up with some new content for them.
If somebody did have, you mentioned a catchphrase, if I had
hmm
something kind of real special that would connect the potential title, the working title, and
hmm
I was
Yep.
wanted to test it, but now it's out there, and
Yeah.
then there's a fear I'm finding with writers that somebody else will, oh, that's great, I'm going to use that
Right.
as a
I'm going
title
to
for my
take
book.
it.
So they,
hmm
should they be kind of holding some of these things a little bit
hmm
close, or should they go ahead
Well,
and get it out there and connect their name to the?
yeah, I think it's interesting because I was just at the airport and, in the bookstore, and I saw some book titles that I have seen before, and they're out there. So it's a whole different book, but it's the same title that's been used before. I think that if you are talking to your agent, for example, and you have this working book title, there's a date on your email that you're talking to them about it, and you can say, I had that title on March 3rd, 2025. You can see in this email, and then you know it's yours. If you ever have to, I mean, I've had that conversation with people. I don't want to put my book title out there. Well, okay, you don't need to put it out on Instagram, but if you see somebody with it, you can say, hang on, I had that title back here. And you can pull up your email to talk
Okay.
about it. I think you can say it if you want to, but also I don't know that I would do that before I had an agent or before I was in some kind of talks with a publisher.
Yeah. Okay. That's so helpful. You have really poured out a lot of good information to writers
Well,
who are
good.
wondering and thinking, and how would they know if they're a good fit for you? Just like
Hmm.
reread your what you're looking for, and
Yeah, send
where do
it
they
to
go?
me. I say send it to me. I mean, I'm not opposed to you sending it to me. I would love to. I love seeing what people are writing. It just blows my mind every day. And the more that I'm doing this, just so you know, and it's not on the website right now, I'm really being drawn lately to like magical realism. So if people are writing stuff like that, I would love to see it, especially if it's got a character or they've built a world that's mostly people of color and it connects back to the history of that family but it also is looking future for, I love that. It just like, A Wrinkle in Time, Madeline L'Engle, but from people of color, because we have all that.
Mm.
Octavia Butler, right? All of that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that I'm drawn to it, but I love it. Send it to me.
Great. So novels and nonfiction, but you just touched right now. That's
Mhm.
currently, as of this recording,
Yeah.
that's what you want to see
And
more
I
of.
love memoir. I do love that. It's hard to sell, but I love it. And I like historical fiction, but that's also really difficult to sell right now. So
Oh,
I'm happy to look at it, but
okay.
just,
That's
to know. Yeah, I'm
yeah, they
happy to
need to
look at
know.
anything that you want to send me, for real.
Okay. And
Yeah.
things change, right? The market,
Mhm.
the interest
Yeah.
shifts over time.
And I like talking to writers about their writing. And I like to, if they want it, if they want feedback, I'm happy to give that. I love to do that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I will keep my ear to the ground too,
Yeah.
just listening for people who might be a good fit.
Yeah.
Where should I send them? Where should we send them today?
You can send them to my email, deidra.riggs@emboldenmediagroup.com. I know it's a lot, right? And then I'm on Instagram at Deidra Riggs. Those are probably the two main places to get in touch with me.
And you don't mind if they message you, follow
I
and message
don't.
you. All
Nope.
right.
Go right ahead.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for your
Awesome.
time. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
wisdom. Thank you
Yeah.
for all that you're learning. You're kind of just getting going
I
here.
know.
And I hope that you continue to find people who
Thank
just
you.
wow you with what they're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. It was fun.
If you feel like you and your project are a good fit for Deidra, you heard, you can just reach right out to her. Just to confirm her spelling, she spells her first name Deidra. Deidra Riggs. This episode is brought to you by Craft Your Best Book Proposal. This free on-demand webinar tells you what goes into a book proposal and why you need one, because I want you to feel confident going forward in your publishing journey. You can learn more at anncroker.com/bestbookproposal. And I'm Ann Croker, cheering you on as a writing coach in your ear, everywhere we may meet. At my website, on this show, in your inbox, or even in person, I'm always looking for ideas to share with you that will help you achieve your goals and have fun by being more curious, creative, and productive. Thank you for being here.